Inside a Brussels hotel conference room on the 17th of January 1997, senior executives from 6 competing truck manufacturers sat down together. By the time breakfast was over, they had agreed on the price of every medium and heavy truck sold in Europe. They kept meeting for 14 years. They called these gatherings social events. 3.8 billion euros worth of socializing. I break down Europe's biggest corporate fines every week. Subscribe if you want to understand how billion-euro punishments actually work. Those gross list prices controlled the entire European truck market. Control those numbers, and you control the market. Which is exactly what Mann, Volvo, Daimler, Iveco, DAF, and Scania did from 1997 until 2011. They met at trade fairs in Frankfurt, in hotel rooms across the continent, on the margins of industry conferences where their competitors were supposed to be competing instead of conspiring. They coordinated price increases across the entire European economic area. They disguised meetings as technical workshops and industry association events. Internal communications referred to competitors as partners. They agreed on timing so no single manufacturer would appear to move first. They shared plans for emissions surcharges. Euro 3, Euro 4, Euro 5, Euro 6. Every new environmental standard required cleaner engines, better filters, more expensive components. Rather than competing to absorb those costs or innovating past them, all 6 manufacturers agreed to pass the bill directly to their customers, together. At the same time, for the same amounts. The illusion of competition was nearly perfect. Multiple brands, individualized negotiations, different dealership networks. Customers believed they were choosing freely between competing offers. They were paying a coordinated tax on every truck they purchased. 30 million trucks on European roads. 3/4 of all inland freight moving on vehicles whose prices had been fixed since before most of their drivers held a commercial license. Every delivery to every supermarket, every hospital supply run, every construction site shipment cost more because 6 executives in a Brussels hotel room decided that competition was inconvenient. The cost of moving Europe's goods was quietly inflated at every level of the supply chain, passed from manufacturer to fleet operator to logistics company to consumer, with no business along the chain aware that the original price was coordinated. In 2004, the cartel evolved. Senior managers stepped back. Coordination moved to German subsidiaries. The method shifted from hotel meetings to email chains and electronic exchanges. Lower-level managers traded truck configurators, delivery schedules, and pricing data with the casual frequency of colleagues swapping spreadsheets. 14 years without a single consequence breeds that kind of comfort. They stopped being careful because they stopped believing anyone was watching. At trade fairs, executives reportedly toasted their success, convinced their coordination was invisible. Managers forwarded confidential pricing spreadsheets using their regular work email accounts. The cartel had become so routine that hiding it felt unnecessary. 4.8 million trucks were sold across Europe during the cartel period. Public sector buyers, municipalities, school districts, hospitals all purchased vehicles at prices pre-agreed in that Brussels hotel years earlier. Private fleet operators who ran small trucking businesses had no way of knowing that the price sheets they received from different manufacturers were built around the same coordinated figures. German and Austrian municipalities alone bought over 20,000 trucks at inflated prices. Taxpayer money flowing directly into a conspiracy that treated public procurement as just another revenue line. Academic estimates put the total overcharge between 1.8 billion and 43.4 billion euros per truck. That meant somewhere between 360 and 8,400 euros extra every vehicle for 14 years. The only thing these companies coordinated perfectly was their own prosecution. On the 20th of September 2010, someone at Mann made a phone call. Not to a competitor, to the European Commission. Mann's legal team filed a leniency application, handing over evidence of the entire 14-year conspiracy. The founding member of the cartel became its executioner. Under Commission rules, the first company to come forward receives full immunity. Mann was facing approximately 1.2 billion euros in penalties. By dialing that number first, they paid 0. 4 months later, in January 2011, Commission investigators arrived unannounced at truck manufacturer headquarters across Europe. Munich, Stuttgart, Turin, Eindhoven, Gothenburg, Södertälje. Simultaneous dawn raids executed before anyone could coordinate a response or destroy evidence. Forensic teams copied entire hard drives on site. They used search software to identify relevant communications. They sealed offices, filing cabinets, and server rooms. The same companies that spent 14 years coordinating in secret now found their digital communications being read by regulators with warrants. The cartel that ran on emails was destroyed by its own digital paper trail. Investigators recovered thousands of pages of internal correspondence, pricing tables, and meeting records. The evidence was so comprehensive that most companies abandoned any thought of denial. Mann walked away clean while investigators tore through its former partner's servers. A founding conspirator paying nothing while the others faced billions. That is the reward for betrayal in European competition law. The investigation lasted 5 years. In November 2014, the Commission sent a statement of objections to all 6 manufacturers. Each company was given access to the evidence against them and invited to respond. Over the following 18 months, legal teams pored over the same emails their own executives had sent during the cartel years. Then, on the 19th of July 2016, Commissioner Margrethe Vestager stood at a podium in the Berlaymont building and announced the largest cartel fine in European history, €2.926 billion. She said it was not acceptable that these companies, which together account for around 9 out of every 10 medium and heavy trucks produced in Europe, were part of a cartel instead of competing with each other. 5 companies settled. They admitted guilt, received a 10% reduction, and waived their right to appeal. Volvo got a 40% leniency reduction for its cooperation. Daimler got 30%, Iveco got 10%. DAF paid €752 million, Daimler paid €1 billion and €8 million, Volvo paid €670 million, Iveco paid €494 million. Mann paid nothing. But Scania refused. Scania looked at the evidence, looked at the fine, and decided to fight. They withdrew from settlement talks and forced the Commission to run a full infringement procedure against them alone. In September 2017, the Commission imposed a separate fine of €880 million on Scania. They could have settled for 10% less. Instead, they chose a decade of litigation, which, looking back, was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Scania appealed to the General Court, Case T-799/17. They argued the hybrid procedure was unfair, that settling with 5 companies and prosecuting the 6th separately prejudiced their defense. They claimed the Commission had used evidence from the leniency applicants to build a stronger case against the one company that refused to settle. The court disagreed on every point. On the 2nd of February, 2022, the General Court dismissed every argument. Scania appealed again to the Court of Justice. Case C-251/22P. They challenged the geographic scope, the timing, and the legality of the entire procedure. On the 1st of February 2024, the Court of Justice dismissed that too. 7 years of litigation, the full fine plus interest. While every other company paid and moved on years ago, Scania was still writing checks to lawyers. The company that refused to admit what everyone else confessed spent 7 years proving the Commission right. The fines are paid, but the real financial reckoning is just beginning. Follow-on damages claims have erupted across Europe. Every company that bought a truck during the cartel period now has a potential claim. Fleet operators, logistics firms, construction companies, bakeries, delivery services. Any business that purchased a medium or heavy truck between 1997 and 2011 is entitled to compensation for the overcharge. The UK Competition Appeal Tribunal is processing collective actions covering over 600,000 trucks. Dutch, Spanish, and German courts are hearing claims from fleet operators and public authorities who paid inflated prices for over a decade. Litigation funders estimate total exposure could reach €100 billion. In Germany alone, over 1,000 municipalities have filed joint claims covering more than 20,000 trucks. The case accelerated adoption of the EU Damages Directive, which makes Commission decisions binding proof of infringement in national courts. That single provision transformed the legal landscape. Before the directive, victims of cartels had to prove the infringement all over again in civil court. After it, they could simply point to the Commission's €2.9 billion fine and demand their money back. That Brussels hotel meeting in 1997, where 6 executives exchanged gross list prices over breakfast, has become the most expensive meal in European history. 6 companies coordinated for 14 years, affected 4.8 million vehicles, and triggered a legal aftermath that will outlast every executive who attended those meetings. They called it a social event. The Commission called it a cartel. The fine called it €3.8 billion. Next week, 5 car makers agreed to limit their emissions cleaning systems. Not because the technology didn't work, because making it work properly cost more than the fine for not trying. They miscalculated by 875 million euros.